Hello, my name is Sophia Martinez, and I'm 64 years old. I'm sitting here in my small apartment in the Bronx, New York City, and today I want to share my story with you. You know, life has a funny way of teaching us lessons when we least expect them. Today, I'm going to tell you about love, about loss, about family, and about the journey that brought me to where I am now. I'm going to tell you about the beautiful moments, the painful ones, and everything in between. This might take a while, maybe an hour and a half, maybe more, but I hope you'll stay with me, because this isn't just my story, it might be your story too, or your mother's story, or someone you know. We all carry these pieces of our hearts, sometimes forgotten, sometimes too painful to remember. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, or tea, get comfortable, and let me take you through the chapters of my life. Let me tell you how a girl from Manhattan became the woman sitting here today, alone, but not broken, hurt, but not defeated. This is my story. I was born in 1961, right here in Manhattan. My parents, Robert and Catherine Miller, were working-class people. My father worked at a factory in Queens, and my mother was a seamstress. We weren't rich, but we had love. We had each other. I grew up in a small two-bedroom apartment on the Lower East Side. It was cramped, sure, but it was home. I remember the smell of my mother's cooking filling the apartment every evening. I remember my father coming home tired, but always with a smile for me. I was their only child. They tried for more, but God had other plans. So I became the center of their world, and honestly, I was a little spoiled. Not with money or fancy things, but with attention, with love, with dreams they had for me. My mother used to tell me, "Sophia, you're going to do something great with your life. You're going to be more than just a wife and mother. You're going to make a difference." I believed her. When you're young, you believe everything is possible, don't you? I went to public school, made friends, did okay in my studies. I wasn't the smartest kid in class, but I wasn't the worst either. I was just normal. And back then, normal felt good enough. It was 1979. I was 18 years old, fresh out of high school, working at a diner in Midtown Manhattan. I was saving money for college. I wanted to study nursing. My parents couldn't afford to send me, so I was doing it myself, one paycheck at a time. That's when David Martinez walked into my life. He came into the diner one Tuesday afternoon. I remember it was raining outside, one of those heavy New York rains that makes everything grey and cold. He walked in, shaking the water off his jacket, and sat at the counter. "What can I get you?" I asked, like I asked every customer. He looked up at me, and I swear, it was like something out of a movie. He had these warm brown eyes that they just looked kind, you know. Not everyone has kind eyes, but he did. "Coffee, black," he said. "And maybe your name?" I laughed. I get hit on a lot at the diner. Comes with the job when you're 18 and working in the city. But something about the way he said it wasn't sleazy or pushy. It was almost shy. "Sophia," I told him. "And you are?" "David," he said. "David Martinez. I just moved here from Brooklyn, started working at the construction site down the block." We talked for maybe 10 minutes that day. He came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Within a month, we were dating. My parents loved him, my father especially. He said David reminded him of himself when he was young, hardworking, honest, respectful. David would come to dinner at our apartment, and he'd help my mother with the dishes. He'd talk to my father about baseball and work and life. 6 months later, he proposed to me right there in that diner where we met. Got down on one knee in front of everyone. I said yes before he even finished asking. We got married in 1980. I was 19, he was 22. People said we were too young. People said it wouldn't last. But we didn't care. We were in love, and love felt like enough. The first few years of marriage were hard, really hard. We moved into a tiny studio apartment in the Bronx. David was working construction, sometimes 12-hour days. I was still working at the diner, still trying to save for nursing school. But now we had rent to pay, bills to handle, life to figure out. We fought sometimes, about money mostly, about how tired we both were, about whether we'd made a mistake getting married so young. But we also loved. God, we loved so much. I remember nights when we'd be too broke to go out, so we'd just sit on our fire escape, looking at the city lights, talking about our dreams. David wanted to start his own construction company someday. I wanted to be a nurse, help people, make a difference. We'll get there, he'd say. We're going to make it, Soph. I promise you. And I believed him. In 1982, I found out I was pregnant. I remember taking that test in our tiny bathroom, hands shaking, heart pounding. When I saw those 2 lines, I didn't know whether to cry from joy or fear. We weren't ready. We barely had enough money for ourselves. But when I told David, he picked me up and spun me around like I weighed nothing. He was crying and laughing at the same time. "We're having a baby," he kept saying. "We're having a baby, Sophia." That's when nursing school stopped being a possibility. That's when my dreams got put on hold. I told myself it was temporary, just until the baby was a little older, just until we were more stable. Emma was born in March 1983, 7 pounds 2 ounces of pure perfection. When they put her in my arms for the first time, I forgot about nursing school. I forgot about everything except this little human who needed me. David was an amazing father from day one. He'd come home from work covered in dust and dirt, and the first thing he'd do was wash his hands and hold Emma. He'd sing to her in Spanish, songs his mother taught him, even though he barely spoke Spanish himself. Money was even tighter with a baby, but somehow we made it work. We always made it work. 3 years later, Michael came along. Our family was complete. The years between 1985 and 2000 were probably the best years of my life. I know that sounds sad, maybe, that the best years are behind me, but it's the truth. David eventually did start his own small construction company in 1990. It wasn't big, just him and 3 other guys, but it was his. He was so proud. I was so proud of him. I stayed home with the kids. I told myself it was what I wanted, and mostly it was true. I loved being their mother. I loved making them breakfast, walking them to school, helping with homework, tucking them in at night. But sometimes, late at night when everyone was asleep, I'd think about that 18-year-old girl who wanted to be a nurse. I'd wonder what happened to her. David would find me sometimes, sitting in the dark, lost in thought. "What's wrong?" he'd ask. "Nothing," I'd say. "Just thinking." He knew. He always knew. But we didn't talk about it. There was no point. Life had made its choice for us. Emma grew into a smart, driven girl. She was always ambitious, always planning her future. Michael was more laid back, more artistic. He loved to draw, loved to read. We weren't rich, but we had enough. We took the kids to Coney Island in the summers. We had family dinners every Sunday. We celebrated birthdays and holidays with my parents. David and we were happy. Not the passionate, crazy love of our youth anymore. It had settled into something deeper, something comfortable. We knew each other completely. We could communicate without words. I remember our 20th anniversary in 2000. The kids were teenagers by then. Amanda was 17, Michael was 14. David took me to the same diner where we met. It was still there, surprisingly. 20 years, he said, holding my hand across the table. And I'd do it all again, Soph. Every single moment. Even the hard parts? I asked. Especially the hard parts, he said. Because they led us here. I should have known then. I should have held on to that moment tighter. Because life was about to change in ways I couldn't imagine. My father died in 2003. Heart attack. He was 68 years old. It happened at work. 1 minute he was fine. The next he was gone. Just like that. No warning. No goodbye. My mother was devastated. They'd been married for 45 years. She didn't know how to exist without him. She moved in with us. Our apartment wasn't big enough, but we made it work. Emma was away at college by then, so she took Emma's room. Taking care of my mother was hard. She had fallen into a depression so deep, I didn't know if she'd ever come out. She'd sit by the window for hours, just staring out, not speaking. "Mum," I'd say, "you need to eat." "I'm not hungry," she'd reply. David was patient with her, more patient than I was sometimes. He'd sit with her, talk to her about Dad, let her cry. Michael was still at home, finishing high school. I tried to keep things normal for him, but everything felt heavy. My mother lived with us for 3 years. In 2006, she had a stroke. She died 2 days later in the hospital, with me holding her hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered before she went. "I'm sorry I gave up. It's okay, Mum," I told her. "You can rest now. You can be with Dad." She smiled, and then she was gone. I buried both my parents within 3 years. I was 45 years old, and I was an orphan. After my mother died, something changed in me. I don't know how to explain it exactly. It was like I suddenly realized how short life was, how quickly people could disappear. I started thinking about all the things I never did, the dreams I put aside, the person I was supposed to become. "I want to go back to school," I told David one night. "I want to finish what I started." He looked at me, surprised. "Nursing school? Soph, you're 45. "So?" I said. "Is there an age limit on dreams?" He didn't say no, but he didn't say yes either. He just looked uncomfortable. "We'll talk about it," he said. But we never did, not really. There was always something else. Bills to pay, Michael's college tuition, David's business having a slow month. I started to resent him a little, not in a loud, obvious way, just a quiet resentment that grew like a weed in my heart. Meanwhile, Emma had graduated and was working in real estate in Manhattan. She was doing well, making good money. She visited sometimes, but not often. She was busy building her life. Michael went to Boston for college, studying education. He wanted to be a teacher. I was proud of him, but I missed him terribly. The apartment felt empty. It was just me and David again, like when we started. But it wasn't the same. We'd grown apart somehow without noticing. We still loved each other. I never doubted that. But the connection felt weaker, like a rope that had been stretched too thin. In 2015, David started feeling tired all the time. At first, we thought it was just age. He was 58, working long days. Of course he was tired. But then, he started losing weight. He'd come home and fall asleep in his chair right after dinner. He'd wake up at night, drenched in sweat. "You need to see a doctor," I told him. "I'm fine," he said. "Just working too hard." Men, they never want to admit something's wrong. Finally, in October, he collapsed at a job site. His crew called 911 and they took him to the hospital. I got the call at 2 p.m. I remember exactly where I was, at the grocery store, deciding between 2 brands of coffee. "Mrs. Martinez, your husband is at Bronx General. You should come now." The world tilted. Just like that, everything changed. At the hospital, they ran tests. So many tests. Blood work, scans, biopsies. A week later, we sat in an oncologist's office, and she said the word that changes everything. Cancer. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. "How long?" David asked. His voice was steady, but I could see his hands shaking. 6 months to a year, she said. "Maybe longer with treatment. But I need to be honest with you. Pancreatic cancer is very aggressive." I don't remember leaving that office. I don't remember the drive home. I just remember sitting in our apartment, David holding my hand, both of us silent. "I'm scared, Soph," he finally said. He never said he was scared. In 35 years of marriage, through everything, he'd never said those words. I held him while he cried. This man who had held me through my parents' deaths, who had been my rock, my foundation, he was breaking, and I had to be strong. "We'll fight this," I said. "We'll fight it together." The next year and a half were the hardest of my life. David went through chemotherapy. It made him so sick. He'd throw up for hours, couldn't eat, lost all his hair. This strong man who'd worked construction his whole life became frail, weak, but he fought. God, he fought so hard. Emma came home more often. She'd sit with her father, tell him about her work, try to keep his spirits up. Michael drove down from Boston every other weekend. We tried to keep things normal. We watched TV together. We talked about the old days. Sometimes when he felt good enough, we'd sit on the couch and just hold hands. "Do you remember our first apartment?" he asked me once. "That tiny studio." I laughed. "How could I forget? We were so happy there," he said. "Even though we had nothing, we had each other." I said, "Yeah." He smiled. "We did." In April 2017, The doctors told us the treatment wasn't working. The cancer had spread to his liver. How long? I asked. Weeks, they said. Maybe a month or two. We decided on hospice at home. I wasn't going to let him die in a hospital. Those last weeks, I don't know how to describe them. There was so much pain, so much medication. He drifted in and out of consciousness. But there were also beautiful moments. One night, he was lucid and clear. He took my hand. Sophia, he said, I need to tell you something. What is it? I'm sorry I didn't support your dreams more. The nursing school thing. I should have found a way to make it happen for you. I started crying. David, no, you gave me everything. We built a beautiful life, but you gave up so much for me, for the kids. I chose it, I said. Every day I chose this life. I chose you. Will you be okay? He asked, after. I don't know, I answered honestly, but I'll try. Promise me you'll live, Soph. Really live. Don't just exist. I promise. David died on May 15th, 2017, at 3:47 in the morning. I was lying next to him, holding his hand. Emma and Michael were asleep in the living room. His breathing had been laboured for hours, but then it just stopped. Peaceful. Quiet. I love you, I whispered. I'll always love you. I stayed there with him until sunrise. I couldn't let go. Not yet. The funeral was beautiful. So many people came. People from his work, neighbours, friends from over the years. Everyone had a story about David, about how he'd helped them, made them laugh, been there for them. I stood there listening, and I realised I was only one of many people who had loved him. He'd touched so many lives. But when everyone left, when Emma went back to Manhattan and Michael went back to Boston, I was alone. Really, truly alone. For the first time in my life, the apartment felt like a tomb. Everything reminded me of David. His chair, his tools in the closet, his coffee mug still in the cabinet. People say grief comes in stages. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. But it doesn't work like that. Not really. Grief is messy. Some days you're fine. Some days you can't get out of bed. Some days you're angry at him for leaving. Other days you're just grateful you had him at all. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Williams, a kind woman in her 50s. How are you doing? She'd ask every session. I don't know, I'd say. I feel lost. Like I don't know who I am without him. Who were you before him? She asked. I was 18, I said. I barely knew myself, so maybe now is your chance to figure it out. But how do you figure out who you are at 56 years old? Emma called every few days, but I could tell she was worried about me. She suggested I move in with her, but I couldn't. This apartment was my home. Our home. Michael called too, but less often. He had his own life. A girlfriend now. He was going to propose soon, he told me. Life was moving on. Everyone's life was moving on, except mine. The next few years were dark. I'm not going to lie about that. I went through the motions. I woke up, made coffee, watched TV, went to bed. The same thing every day. I stopped seeing friends, stopped going to church, stopped doing anything that required effort. Depression is strange. It doesn't feel like sadness, exactly. It feels like nothing, like you're wrapped in grey cotton and everything is muffled and distant. Emma got frustrated with me. Mum, you need to do something, she said during one visit. Dad wouldn't want you living like this. Don't tell me what your father would want, I snapped. She looked hurt. I'm just worried about you. Well, don't be. I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. We both knew it. Michael got engaged in 2019. He wanted me to come to Boston to meet his fiancée, Sarah. I don't think I can make the trip, I told him. Mum, please, it's important to me. I'll try, I said, but I didn't try. I stayed home. He got married in 2020, right before COVID hit. I didn't go to the wedding. I told him I was sick, but the truth was I just couldn't face it. Couldn't face being happy for him when I felt so empty inside. He didn't call for 2 months after that. When he finally did, his voice was cold. I needed you there, Mum, he said. I know. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough. Dad would have been there. He was right. David would have moved heaven and earth to be there, but I wasn't David. Then came COVID-19. The whole world shut down. New York became an epicenter, sirens all day and night, people dying, everyone scared. I was alone in my apartment for months. Emma couldn't visit, it was too risky. Michael was in Boston with his new wife. I should have been lonely, but honestly, I barely noticed. I was already isolated. The pandemic just made it official. I watched the news constantly. The death counts, the stories of people dying alone in hospitals, families unable to say goodbye. It made me think of David's last days. At least I got to be with him. At least I got to hold his hand. So many people didn't get that. I started thinking about death a lot. What it would be like. Whether David was waiting for me somewhere. Whether I'd see my parents again. I wasn't suicidal, not exactly. I just didn't see the point anymore. Of continuing. Of trying. Emma did video calls with me every day during lockdown. "Mum, you look tired," concerned, she'd say. "I'm fine. Are you eating?" Yes, I was lying. I'd lost 15 pounds without trying. "When this is over, I'm coming to stay with you for a while," determined, she said. "You don't need to do that. I want to." When lockdown finally ended in late 2020, Emma showed up at my door. She had a key, so she just let herself in. "Mum," she called out. I was on the couch in my pajamas. I hadn't showered in 3 days. She looked at the apartment. Dishes in the sink, newspapers piled up, dust everywhere. Then she looked at me. She started crying. "Oh, Mum," she said, sitting next to me. "What happened to you?" "I'm fine," I said automatically. "You're not fine. Look at yourself. Look at this place. I just haven't been feeling well." "Mum, you're depressed. Seriously depressed. You need help. I'm seeing a therapist." "When was your last appointment?" I couldn't remember. Months ago? A year? "Okay," Emma said, taking charge. "Here's what's going to happen. First, you're going to take a shower. Then, we're going to clean this apartment. Then, we're going to the doctor. No arguments." She sounded like me when she was a child, and I'd use my mum voice. When did she become the parent and I become the child? But I let her help me. Because I was so tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of pretending. Tired of everything. The doctor prescribed antidepressants. Emma made me promise to take them. "I'll call you every day to check," she said. "You don't have to do that." "Yes, I do. Because you're my mum, and I love you, and I'm not going to lose you too." That broke something in me. I started crying. Really crying. For the first time since David died. "I miss him so much," I sobbed. "I don't know how to do this without him." "I know, Mum, I know. But you're not alone. You have me. You have Michael. Michael hates me. He doesn't hate you. He's hurt. But he still loves you." Emma stayed with me for 2 weeks. She got me on a routine. Wake up at a reasonable time. Shower. Eat breakfast. Take a walk around the block. Small things. "You have to take it one day at a time," she said. "You don't have to figure everything out right now. Just get through today." She helped me clean out some of David's things. Not all of them. I wasn't ready for that. But some. His old work clothes that didn't mean anything. Papers and documents we didn't need anymore. "You can keep the important stuff," she said. "His watch, his wedding ring, his photos. But some of this, you don't need to keep everything, Mum." She was right. I was holding on to things because I was afraid if I let them go, I'd lose him completely. But he wasn't in his old shirts or his broken tools. He was in my memories, in my heart. The antidepressants started working after a few weeks. I wouldn't say I felt happy, but the grey fog lifted a little. I could think more clearly. I could feel things again, not just numbness. Emma convinced me to call Michael. "I don't know what to say," I told her. "Just say you're sorry. Say you love him. Say you want to be part of his life." So I called. My hands were shaking. "Hello?" Michael answered. He sounded cautious. "Hi, honey. It's Mum." Silence. I wanted to say, "I'm so sorry." About the wedding. About everything. I wasn't in a good place, but that's not an excuse. I should have been there for you. More silence. Then, "I was really hurt, Mum. I know. You had every right to be. I needed you there. Sarah's parents were there. her whole family, and my mum couldn't even show up. I know. I failed you. And I'm sorry. If I could go back and do it differently, I would. I heard him sigh. Are you okay now? Emma said you've been really depressed. I'm getting help, taking medication, trying to be better. Good. That's good. Can I meet Sarah? Maybe you could come visit. Or I could come to Boston. Yeah, we could do that. It wasn't a full reconciliation, but it was a start. You put a frog in Emma's bed. That was one time. We laughed. It felt good to laugh. After dinner, Michael and I had a moment alone in the kitchen. Thank you for coming, I said. Of course, Mum. Sarah's wonderful. Dad would have loved her. He smiled sadly. Yeah, he would have. I wish I could go back and be at your wedding. I know. But you're here now. That's what matters. He hugged me, and I felt something in my chest unclench. We were going to be okay. In 2021, I decided to volunteer at a local community centre. Emma suggested it. You need something to do, Mum. Something that gets you out of the apartment. The community centre served meals to seniors and ran activity programmes. They needed volunteers to help serve food and organise events. I was nervous my first day. I hadn't worked in years. I didn't know if I'd remember how to interact with people, how to be useful. But the coordinator, a young woman named Jessica, was patient with me. Don't worry, Mrs. Martinez, she said. We're just glad you're here. The seniors who came for meals reminded me of my parents. Some were chatty and friendly. Others were quiet and alone. I saw myself in them. That loneliness. That feeling of being invisible. I started going 3 times a week. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I'd serve food, clean tables, sit and talk with people who had no one else to talk to. There was this one woman, Margaret. She was 82, lived alone, had no family. She came every day for the free meal. You're new, she said to me one day. Yes, I just started volunteering. Why? She asked bluntly. 2 months later, Michael and Sarah came to visit. I was nervous. I cleaned the apartment 3 times. I made David's favourite recipe, lasagna, even though David wasn't there to eat it. When they arrived, Sarah hugged me like we'd known each other forever. Mrs. Martinez, she said, I've heard so much about you. She was lovely, warm, kind, genuine. Exactly the kind of person I'd want for my son. Michael was more reserved at first. There was still hurt there, still distance. But as the evening went on, he relaxed. We looked at old photo albums. Sarah loved hearing stories about Michael as a kid. He was such a troublemaker, I said, showing her a picture of 7-year-old Michael, covered in mud. Was not, Michael protested, but he was smiling. I needed something to do. Needed to feel useful again. She nodded knowingly. Husband passed 7 years ago. Mine's been gone 15. She said. Still miss him every day. Does it get easier? She thought about it. No. But you get stronger. Margaret and I became friends. We'd sit together during lunch, talk about our lives, our losses, our regrets. You're lucky you have children, she said once. I never had kids. Always regretted it. Sometimes I feel like I failed them, I admitted. I wasn't there when they needed me. But you're here now, she said. That's what matters. We can't change the past, Sophia. We can only change what we do today. Simple wisdom from a simple woman. But it stuck with me. It was September 2022 when I found it. I was cleaning out the basement storage area in our building. The landlord had sent a notice saying we needed to clear out old items. I'd been avoiding it for years. David's things were down there. Tools, old furniture, boxes of memories I wasn't ready to face. But I couldn't avoid it anymore. I went down on a Saturday morning, armed with garbage bags and determination. Most of it was junk, broken furniture, old magazines, things we'd meant to throw away years ago. But then I found a box labelled Sophia, 1980s, in David's handwriting. My heart started pounding. I didn't remember this box. I opened it carefully. Inside were letters, dozens of letters. Letters I'd written to David when we were first dating, when he'd go away for construction jobs in other cities. Letters he'd kept all these years. There were also photos. Me at 18, 19, 20, young and full of dreams. There was my acceptance letter to nursing school, the one I never got to use. There were ticket stubs from movies we'd seen, receipts from dinners we'd shared, dried flowers from our wedding. And at the bottom, there was a journal. My journal from 1985. I'd forgotten I even kept a journal. I sat on the cold basement floor and opened it. The first entry was from January 1985. Today, Emma turned 2. She's growing so fast. David gave her a teddy bear and she won't put it down. I'm tired all the time, but I'm happy. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Being a mother, being a wife. This is enough. But even then I could hear the doubt in my words. This is enough. Like I was trying to convince myself. I kept reading. March 1985. Sometimes I think about nursing school. I wonder what I'd be doing now if I'd gone. Would I be saving lives? Making a difference? Instead, I'm changing diapers and doing laundry. Don't get me wrong, I love Emma more than anything. But is this all I'm meant to be? June 1985. David worked late again. I spent the whole day with Emma. She's wonderful, but I'm lonely. Is this what the rest of my life will be? Waiting for him to come home? Waiting for something to happen? I started crying. Reading these words from my younger self, I realized I'd been losing myself even then, even in the good years, but there was more. December 1985. I'm pregnant again. I should be happy, but I'm scared. Another baby means nursing school is definitely out of the question now. David says we'll figure it out, that we'll make it work. But will we? I feel like I'm disappearing a little more each day. I closed the journal. I couldn't read anymore. I sat there in that cold basement, surrounded by the ghosts of my past, and I finally understood something. I hadn't lost myself when David died. I'd lost myself decades ago. His death just made it obvious. I brought the box upstairs and put it on my kitchen table. For 3 days I didn't touch it. I just looked at it, afraid of what else I might find. Finally, I called Dr. Williams. I hadn't seen her in over a year. "Sophia," she said warmly, "it's good to hear from you. How are you?" "I found something," I said. "My old journal, from when I was young. And I realized I've been lying to myself for years. I told myself I was happy with the choices I made, that I didn't regret giving up nursing school, giving up my dreams, but I did regret it. I've been resenting it for 40 years. That's a significant realization," she said gently. "But what do I do with it now?" I asked. "I can't go back. I can't change anything. Those years are gone." "No, you can't change the past," she agreed, "but you can change how you move forward. You're 62 years old, Sophia. You could live another 20, 30 years. What do you want to do with that time?" I didn't have an answer. "Think about it," she said, "and call me when you're ready to talk more." I did think about it. For weeks, that's all I thought about. What did I want? I couldn't become a nurse now. I was too old. It would take too long. But maybe there were other ways to help people, other ways to make a difference. In November 2022, I enrolled in a 6-month course to become a certified home health aide. Emma thought I was crazy. "Mum, you're 62. You don't need to work." "It's not about money," I said. "It's about doing something meaningful with the time I have left. But home healthcare is hard work, physical work. I'm not dead yet," I said, surprised by the fierceness in my own voice. Michael was more supportive. "I think it's great, Mum," he said over the phone. "Dad would be proud." "You think so?" "I know so. He always admired people who helped others." The course was challenging. I was the oldest person in the class by at least 20 years. The younger students were nice, but I felt out of place. There was so much to learn. Medical terminology, patient care, safety protocols. My brain didn't absorb information like it used to. I studied every night. I made flashcards. I asked questions. And slowly, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in years. Pride in myself. I passed the course in April 2023. I got my certification. At 62 years old, I started my first real job in 40 years. I was assigned to care for an elderly man named Robert Chen. He was 78, recovering from a stroke, living alone in a small apartment in Chinatown. His children lived in California and couldn't care for him full-time, so they'd hired a home health aide. I was nervous my first day. What if I messed up? What if I couldn't do it? But Robert made it easy. "You're nervous," he said, his words slightly slurred from the stroke. "Is it obvious?" I asked. Very," he smiled. "Don't be. I'm not going to bite you." I helped him with daily tasks: bathing, dressing, preparing meals, light physical therapy. We'd talk while we worked. He told me about his life, coming to America from China in the 1960s, working in restaurants, raising 3 kids, losing his wife to cancer 10 years ago. "You understand," he said. "I can see it in your eyes. You've lost someone too." "My husband," I said. 7 years ago. "It never stops hurting," he said. "But we go on. What choice do we have?" "None," I agreed. "My children want me to move to California," he said. "Live with them. But this is my home. My wife and I lived here for 40 years. How can I leave?" "You can't," I said. "Not if you're not ready." He looked at me gratefully. "You get it." I worked with Robert for 6 months. We became close. He told me stories about his wife, Margaret. I told him about David. "You're good at this," he said one day. "At what?" "Caring. Really caring. Not just doing a job." "I wish I'd done this sooner," I admitted. "When we're young, we don't know what we want. We just do what we think we're supposed to do. It's only when we're old that we figure it out." "That seems unfair," he shrugged. "Life is unfair, but at least you figured it out. Some people never do." In June 2023, Michael called with news. "Mum, Sarah's pregnant." My heart stopped. "What? We're having a baby. You're going to be a grandmother." I started crying, happy tears this time. "Oh, Michael, that's wonderful. Congratulations. We want you to be involved," he said. "Really involved. Not like, we want you to be part of this baby's life." "I will be," I promised. "I won't miss it this time." The baby was due in January 2024. I started knitting, something I hadn't done since Emma and Michael were babies. I made a blanket, booties, a little hat. Emma came over to help me shop for baby gifts. "I can't believe Michael's having a baby," she said. "I feel old." "You're 40, I said. "That's not old," says the woman who just started a new career at 62. We laughed. "Are you happy, Mum?" she asked suddenly. Really happy." I thought about it. "Yes, for the first time in a long time. Yes." "Good," she said, squeezing my hand. "You deserve it." James David Martinez was born on January 8, 2024. 7 pounds, 5 ounces. I drove to Boston the day he was born. Michael called me from the hospital, his voice shaking with emotion. "Mum, he's here. He's perfect." "I'm on my way," I said. When I got to the hospital, Michael met me in the hallway. He looked exhausted but radiantly happy. "Ready to meet your grandson?" he asked. Sarah was in the room, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a blue blanket. She looked tired but beautiful. "Hi, Mrs. Martinez," she said. "Please call me Sophia," I said. She smiled. "Okay, Sophia. Want to hold him?" She placed him in my arms and I looked down at this tiny, perfect human. He had Michael's nose, David's eyes. "Hi, James," I whispered. "I'm your grandma." He yawned, a tiny little yawn, and my heart melted completely. "We gave him David as his middle name," Michael said. "We wanted Dad to be part of him." I started crying. "Thank you. He would have loved that." I stayed in Boston for a week, helping Sarah and Michael adjust to parenthood. I changed diapers, did laundry, cooked meals, held the baby while they slept. This time I didn't miss it. This time I was present. A few months later, Emma came to visit. She seemed off, quieter than usual, distracted. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "I've been thinking a lot lately." "About what?" "About my life. I'm 41, Mum. Successful career, nice apartment, good money. But I'm alone. No husband, no kids. Is this it? Is this all there is?" I recognized that feeling, that restlessness, that sense of something missing. "Do you want those things?" I asked. "Marriage? Children? I don't know." Maybe. I always thought I'd have time. But now Michael has a baby and I'm watching him be a father and I'm realizing I might have waited too long. You're 41, not 81, I said. You still have time. Do I? She asked. I've been so focused on my career, on proving I could make it on my own. But what if I sacrificed the wrong things? I thought about my own life, how I'd sacrificed my career for family, and Emma had done the opposite, both of us wondering if we'd made the right choice. There's no perfect way to live, I said. We all make choices and then we live with them, but it's never too late to make different choices. What do you mean? If you want a relationship, put yourself out there. If you want kids, there are ways. Adoption, fostering. You're not trapped in the life you've built. You can rebuild. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. When did you get so wise? When I stopped being so afraid, I said. May 15th, 2024. 7 years since David died. I woke up that morning feeling different than I had on previous anniversaries. Not happy exactly, but peaceful. I got dressed and drove to the cemetery. I hadn't been in over a year. David's grave was simple. Just his name, his dates, and the words, "Beloved husband and father." I sat on the grass next to his headstone. "Hi, baby," I said. "It's been a while. I'm sorry I haven't visited." The wind rustled through the trees. It was a beautiful spring day. "A lot has happened," I continued. "We have a grandson, James. He's beautiful. You'd love him. Michael's a good father, just like you were." I pulled some weeds growing around the headstone. I got a job. Can you believe it? At 62, I finally did something I wanted to do. I'm helping people. It's not nursing exactly, but it's close. I wish I'd done it sooner, but better late than never, right? I sat there for a long time, just being with him. "I'm okay now," I finally said. "It took me a long time, but I'm okay. I hope you're proud of me. I hope you're at peace." I kissed my fingers and pressed them to his name. "I love you. I'll always love you. But I'm going to live now, like I promised." As I walked back to my car, I felt lighter somehow, like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't even know was there, and I'd finally put it down. In the summer of 2024, I started working with a new client. Her name was Patricia, and she was 70 years old, recovering from hip surgery. Patricia was different from my other clients. She was feisty, opinionated, and didn't take any nonsense. "So you're the new girl," she said when I arrived. "I'm 63, I said. "Not exactly a girl." She laughed. "I like you already. The last aide treated me like I was senile. I'm old, not stupid." Patricia lived in a beautiful brownstone in Park Slope, Brooklyn. She'd been a professor at Columbia University, taught literature for 40 years. Her walls were covered in books, floor to ceiling, every room. "Have you read all these?" I asked. "Most of them," she said. "Books have been my life. Never married, never had kids. Just me and my books. Do you regret it?" She thought about it. "Sometimes, but mostly no. I lived the life I wanted to live. That's more than most people can say." Patricia and I became close quickly. She reminded me of what I could have been. Independent, educated, focused on something beyond family. But she also had her own loneliness, her own regrets. "The thing about books," she said one day, "is they can't hold your hand when you're scared. They can't laugh at your jokes. They're wonderful, but they're not people." "You could still meet people," I said. "It's not too late. At 70, please." "I started a new career at 62, I pointed out. She smiled. Touché. Patricia started coming with me to the community centre where I volunteered. She taught a book club there. Within a month, she had a group of regular attendees, all seniors, all hungry for intellectual conversation. She was happier than I'd seen her. Engaged. Alive. "Thank you," she said to me once. "For what?" "For reminding me that I'm not dead yet." In October 2024, Emma called me with news. "Mum, I met someone." "What? When?" "At a work conference last month. His name is Daniel. He's a real estate developer, divorced, has 2 teenage kids. And I really like him. Like, really like him. I haven't felt this way in, maybe ever." I could hear the happiness in her voice, mixed with fear. That's wonderful, sweetheart. But it's complicated. He has kids. They're 14 and 16. What if they don't like me? What if I'm not good at this? You'll figure it out, I said. Just be yourself. What if this doesn't work out? What if I'm making a mistake? Emma, I said gently, life is full of risks. You can't protect yourself from every possible hurt. Sometimes you just have to jump and trust you'll be okay. There was silence on the other end. When did you become so brave? She asked. When I stopped having anything left to lose. Emma brought Daniel to meet me in November. He was nice, genuine, kind, clearly crazy about my daughter. His kids, Sophie and Ryan, were polite but wary. I understood. They'd been through their parents' divorce. They weren't sure about this new woman in their father's life, but Emma was patient with them. She didn't try to be their mother. She just tried to be their friend. By Christmas, they were warming up to her. Sophie even asked Emma to help her shop for a dress for the school dance. She asked for my help, Emma told me on the phone, her voice full of wonder. Me? Can you believe it? I can, I said. You're going to be great at this. It's November 2024 now as I sit here telling you this story. I'm 64 years old. This morning, I found that box again, the one from the basement, with my old journal and letters. I'd put it in my closet after I first found it, unsure what to do with it. Today, I opened it again. I read through my old journal entries, but this time, I didn't cry. Instead, I wrote a new entry, the first one in almost 40 years. Dear younger Sophia, I wrote, I found your words from 1985. I read about your doubts, your fears, your feeling of losing yourself. I want you to know, you were right to feel that way. You did lose yourself for a while, but here's what I learned. That's okay. You made choices. Some of them were your choices. Some were made for you by circumstances. You gave up nursing school. You stayed home with the kids. You put David's dreams before your own sometimes, but you also raised two beautiful human beings. Michael is a wonderful father. Emma is finding her way to happiness. You created a family built on love. And now, at 63, you finally became a healthcare worker. It's not the path you imagined at 18, but it's still meaningful. It still matters. Here's what I wish I'd known back then. You don't have to choose between being yourself and being there for others. You don't have to sacrifice everything to be a good wife, a good mother. It's okay to want more, but also, it's never too late. At 62, I started over. At 63, I found purpose. At 64, I'm more myself than I've ever been. So don't grieve for me, young Sophia. Yes, life was hard sometimes. Yes, I got lost. Yes, I struggled with depression after David died. But I found my way back, and the journey, all of it, even the painful parts, made me who I am. I'm okay now, better than okay. I'm finally free. Last week, Michael and Sarah asked me to move to Boston. We want James to know his grandmother, Michael said. Really know you, not just occasional visits. We have a mother-in-law suite, Sarah added. It's not big, but it's yours if you want it. I was torn. This apartment has been my home for over 30 years. David and I raised our kids here. He died here. Leaving feels like abandoning him. But he's not here. Not really. He's in my heart, in my memories, and those go with me wherever I go. Can I think about it? I asked. Of course, Michael said. I talked to Patricia about it during one of our sessions. What do you want to do? She asked. I don't know. Part of me wants to go, be near my grandson, be part of his life, but part of me is scared. Of what? Of letting go, of David, of this life I built. Patricia looked at me seriously. Sophia, let me tell you something I learned too late. Holding on to the past doesn't honor it. Living fully in the present, that's what honors the people we've lost. They'd want us to be happy. She was right. I knew she was right. So yesterday I told Michael, yes, I'll move to Boston. We'll do it after the holidays. Emma's going to help me pack. Patricia says she'll come visit. I'm scared, but I'm also excited. For the first time in years, I'm looking forward to the future instead of mourning the past. This Thanksgiving was different from the last 7. Michael and Sarah came to New York. Emma came too, bringing Daniel and his kids. We all squeezed into my small apartment. 3 generations, almost a full family. I cooked David's favorite recipes. Turkey with his special seasoning, his mother's recipe for rice and beans, the desserts he loved. "This is delicious, Mrs. Martinez," Sophie said. "Sophia," I corrected gently. "You can call me Sophia," she smiled. "Okay, Sophia." After dinner, I held baby James while everyone talked and laughed around me. He was almost 10 months old now, starting to crawl, babbling constantly. He looked up at me with those eyes, David's eyes, and grabbed my finger. "Dada," he said. Michael laughed. "He says that to everyone." "Dada," James said again, smiling. And I thought, David is here. Not physically, but he's here. In this baby. In Michael's laugh. In the love that fills this room. This is what he would have wanted. Not for me to spend years mourning him, but for me to be here, present, alive, surrounded by family. "Thank you," I whispered to the ceiling, to whatever place David might be watching from. "Thank you for giving me this." My last day in the apartment was December 15th, 2024. Emma came to help me finish packing. Most of my things were already in boxes, ready for the movers. We walked through the empty rooms together. "This is where Michael took his first steps," I said, pointing to the living room floor. "This is where you taught me to braid my hair," Emma said, touching the bathroom doorframe. "Your father and I danced here on our anniversary," I said, standing in the middle of the bedroom. "Every year, even that last year when he was sick, we danced." Emma hugged me. "It's okay to be sad, Mum. I know, but I'm happy too. Is that strange?" "No," she said. "It means you're healing." We locked the door for the last time. I put my key in the landlord's mailbox. As we walked to the car, I turned back to look at the building one more time. "Goodbye, David," I whispered. "I'm not leaving you. I'm just going to live the rest of my life, like I promised." The wind picked up, rustling the bare tree branches, and I could have sworn I heard his voice. "Go, Soph. Be happy." So that's my story. That's how I got from there to here. I'm living in Boston now, in Michael and Sarah's house. My room is small but cozy. I decorated it with photos. David, my parents, the kids when they were little, baby James. I still work as a home health aide. I found a job with an agency here. I still volunteer at a community centre on Saturdays. Emma and Daniel got engaged last month. The wedding is in June. Sophie asked Emma if she could be a bridesmaid. Michael is talking about having another baby. James needs a sibling, he says. I'm taking a watercolour painting class, something I always wanted to try. I'm terrible at it, but I don't care. I'm doing it for me. Sometimes I still get sad. Sometimes I miss David so much it physically hurts. Sometimes I wonder what life would have been like if I'd made different choices. But mostly I'm grateful. Grateful for the 40 years I had with David. Grateful for my children. Grateful for my grandson. Grateful for this second chance at life, at finding myself, at being more than my grief. I'm 64 years old. If I'm lucky, I have 20 more years, maybe 30, and I'm going to live them. Really live them. Not for David, not for my kids, not for anyone else, for me. Because that's what I've learned. You can love people with your whole heart and still save some of that heart for yourself. You can honor the past while embracing the future. You can be lost and find yourself again. It's never too late. That's what I want you to know, whoever you are listening to this. If you're depressed, if you're grieving, if you feel like your life is over, it's not. Not unless you decide it is. You can start again at 60, at 70, at 80. You can rebuild. You can find joy again. It won't be easy. There will be days when you want to give up. Days when the pain feels too big to bear. But there will also be days when you hold your grandson and feel complete. Days when you help someone and know you made a difference. Days when you laugh and realize you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for staying with me through all of it. The good parts, the hard parts, the messy parts. This is Sophia Martinez signing off from Boston, Massachusetts. Live your life. Don't waste a single day, because before you know it, you'll be 64. Looking back, wishing you'd been braver sooner. Be brave now. Be brave today.